right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, Samson Dauda, your reigning Mr. Olympia, did a guest posing this weekend in Berlin, Germany. A lot of people are talking about this guest posing, including Samson, who in the caption of his own post said this was the most love that he had ever received from an audience at a guest posing like this. So apparently the feedback that he was getting from that crowd, this was the warmest reception that Samson had ever had doing any type of guest posing, which is pretty cool to hear. And we know from Samson's last physique update, that last posing video that he posted, that he was 8 weeks into his clean break, as he called it. So assuming in that physique update and in this guest posing, he's still in this clean break phase of his offseason, meaning I would assume that he's off of everything. This is like his health phase, his recovery phase, where he cycles off. And that's probably why you're seeing a little bit of a downsized looking version of Samson, maybe not the leanest looking version. And of course, we're very, very deep into the offseason right now for Samson. And this is one of the things that I really respect the most about Samson, is the fact that he is so active when it comes to giving back to the fans, even in the midst of his offseason or his clean break, as he's calling it. He could just be relaxing with his feet up and saying, I'm not doing anything. I'm in the middle of my offseason right now, and I'm trying to take a little bit of a break. But you just saw him do the guest posing in Detroit. Now he's overseas in Germany doing a full guest posing. And I was looking at his 2025 Mr. Olympia tour schedule of all the appearances that he's doing. Started with Brazil, Detroit. Now he's in Berlin. And then he's going to Mexico. Then he's got Pittsburgh on his schedule, which could be interesting as well. Again, I brought up this hypothetical idea of maybe we still get to see some kind of crazy guest posing at the Pittsburgh Pro, even though typically it's open bodybuilding guys. You've got a lot of special guests there, top classic physique guys, Mr. Olympia, top 212 guys, Keon Pearson. Maybe we get some kind of special hybrid guest posing in addition to that crazy lineup that you've got in Pittsburgh. But he does have Pittsburgh on his list of his tour schedule. And he's got Mexico, I already said that, Toronto, China, South Korea, Amsterdam, Romania. So he is a very active Mr. Olympia champ. And that's one of the things I really respect about him. This is something that people complained about with Big Ramy, for example. Hadi Chupin, for example. They won the title, and then you kind of just didn't hear from them or see them throughout the rest of the year, except for maybe on social media. And even then, especially in the case of both Hadi and Ramy, it was kind of few and far between, even with social media posts. But with Samson, not only is he extremely active on social media, but you're seeing him basically do a worldwide tour in his offseason when he could just be resting and relaxing. And I think that's really impressive, and my hat is certainly off to Samson for that. And again, I'm curious to see after Pittsburgh, when it comes to Samson or Derek, with however Derek ends up doing in Pittsburgh, does that change the conversation at all when it comes to the 2025 Mr. Olympia as far as who's the favorite going into that show? Is it Derek or is it Samson? I know there's like a camp of people that will probably always say the defending Mr. Olympia champ from the year prior will always be the favorite going into the show, no matter what, even if they're defeated in between. And I think there's another camp of people that follow that you're only as good as your last show type of mentality, and they look at the last time we saw Samson on stage, not being the Olympia, but being the Arnold Classic, where he was beaten by Derek. And I think they'll look at that and say Derek is the favorite. And then especially if you have Derek come in and dominate in Pittsburgh, the rest of essentially the Olympia lineup, with the exception of Hadi, does that change the narrative even more? But either way, I'm extremely impressed with what Samson has done so far as an ambassador for bodybuilding and as the current Mr. Olympia champ. Now, let's get to the next story here. So Eddie Hall fought Mariusz Pudzianowski today. And this was a little bit of a weird thing, and I already tested, before I did this video, I tested a short video to see if they would let me show any of the footage from the fight, and they won't. It's like 100%. They don't just copyright strike it like to take the revenue. it's like not viewable if you try to use any of the footage. So there's not going to be any footage in this video. But this fight was kind of weird in the sense that I felt the promotion for this was very, very small. I only even knew that the fight was this weekend as of like a day or two ago when I saw clips of the weigh-ins on social media. I didn't see really much promo at all for this fight. I knew that it was happening, but as far as the fact that it was this weekend and the actual date, I had no idea until like a couple days ago that it was actually happening today. Now, the result of this fight, I'm sure everybody knows by now, and this is probably why they're not letting people use clips of the fight, because one clip is essentially, well, is literally the entire fight, because this fight ended in 30 seconds with Eddie Hall knocking out Mariusz within the first 30 seconds of the fight, and that probably is why they're not letting people use the clip or re-upload the clip in any capacity, because that clip is the whole main event. That 30 seconds right there that you'll see on a reel, that's it. But in my opinion, it was a pretty big mismatch, even though, you know, Mariusz has this track record of he's been competing in MMA. He's been fighting for decades at this point, definitely over a decade. He's very seasoned. He's had a lot of fights. He's been doing this for a very long time. Whereas on the other hand, this was Eddie Hall's MMA debut. Obviously, he had the boxing match with Hafthor, which I felt there was a ton more promotion for that fight than there was for this one. But this was his MMA debut. So you could argue on that statistic alone, maybe you could say this fight favored Mariusz. But all the other statistics really do point to Eddie Hall finishing this thing early. So Eddie Hall weighed 26 stones and 2 pounds. The conversion on that is 366 pounds total, whereas Mariusz weighed 18 stones and 2 pounds, which was 254 pounds. So the weight difference alone was well over 100 pounds in Eddie's favor. And then the age difference, Eddie was 37, he is 37, and Mariusz was a decade older, 11 years older to be exact, at age 48. And the height difference also in Eddie's favor, 6'3" versus Mariusz being 6'1". Eddie Hall also boasting a 3-inch reach advantage over Mariusz in this fight. So it was basically what I expected it to be. And like I said, if you watch the clip, it's essentially the whole fight. So I'm kind of glad in a sense that I didn't buy the pay-per-view for this and I didn't sit down, you know, and watch the whole card all day. And maybe I would have had I known that it was today. I knew last night that it was today, but I didn't know even what time it was going to be today because of the time zone difference. So I was like, well, I'm not even going to watch this. And then obviously the big selling point of this fight was the fact that both Eddie and Mariusz Pudzianowski come from the sport of strongmen. They're both World's Strongest Man champions. Mariusz boasting a total of 5 World's Strongest Man titles. But I am curious to hear what you guys thought about this in the comments down below. Because in my opinion, this felt like there was literally almost no promotion for this fight. There wasn't a whole lot of fanfare. Like with the Hafthor fight, I felt like everybody was talking about that leading up to it. Because you also had that kind of storyline of the deadlift thing. But with this, it kind of felt like very random. It felt like it happened very fast. It felt like there wasn't a lot of promotion for this. And it kind of felt like a fight that nobody really asked for or anticipated or really was looking forward to. Because while I saw a couple things here and there over the past week, which was really just the press conference thing and the weigh-ins thing, and that was only in the last couple days, I really haven't seen virtually anybody, and this could be because I cover mostly bodybuilding, but on social media, I haven't really seen virtually anybody like pumping up this fight saying, oh, I can't wait to see Eddie versus Mariusz this weekend. So it just felt very weird to me. But even my brother-in-law, and shout out to Tyler if you're watching this, he's a big strongman fan. He follows all this stuff, but he doesn't follow bodybuilding. He's more of a strongman guy. Even he texted me today. He's like, did you know that Eddie Hall was fighting Mariusz Pudzianowski today? So he follows it close, and he didn't even know about the fight until today. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, next up in the news, Sam Sulek is now confirmed as a special guest for the Pittsburgh Pro. Right now, based on their announcement, it looks like he's confirmed just for the Expo, where he's going to have a booth of his own. But again, this kind of feeding into this idea of potentially having a special guest posing. This is why I think that this could stack up to be such a crazy show. Is obviously the lineup is world class. Mr. Olympia Derek Lunsford, Nick Walker, Martin Fitzwater, Michael Krizo, William Bonac. But again, when you look at that special guest list and you're seeing Chris Bumstead, Sam Sulek, Samson Dauda, Keon Pearson, Urs Kalsinski, Ramon Dino, you're literally seeing the biggest names in the divisions that are not men's open bodybuilding are publicly attending this as quote-unquote special guests. And again, this show existed before they had men's open bodybuilding as a category. And the big selling point always was, this is going to be the craziest guest posing that you're ever going to see. But it was mostly men's open guys, with the exception of, Ramon has joined it before. Like, you've had other guys from other divisions join the guest posing. But I kind of wonder if they're still going to have, even though they haven't said this, even though they haven't advertised this at all, if there still will be a guest posing, because that has been so much of the part, such a big part of history with this show. I could see them saying, okay, let's have a crazy guest posing, but just it's not open guys. Or maybe they do have open guys in there if they want to. But with Sam being in here, and Sam is now an IFBB Pro, what's to stop them from saying, hey, Sam, we'll pay you to do this guest posing if we do one, and you can be on stage with potentially, Ramon and Urs, and maybe Chris Bumstead gets up there. Keon we know is in great shape. Samson Dauda has Pittsburgh on his schedule for his Olympia tour. So could you guys even imagine a scenario where not only do we get one of the best open bodybuilding shows of the year, but imagine that you got Sam Sulek up on that stage for a guest posing. And imagine all those special guests, and this is just pure fantasy land hypothetical, but it is the Mannion show. They own the IFBB and NPC. All these guys essentially owe them their careers. I'm sure if they asked and if they paid them, all these guys would say yes. But could you imagine every special guest on that list, including Sam Sulek? It would blow the roof off that place to see Sam pose next to Chris Bumstead, Urs Kalsinski, Ramon Dino, Keon Pearson, and maybe some of the open guys. Maybe Derek goes up there fresh off of, competing in the show. I've been gassing this show up for weeks now, but I really think even I'm still underselling it, because of the potential that there is for this show to have maybe one of the biggest viral moments of the year in bodybuilding. Looking at the special guest list, looking at the lineup they have for the actual show, not to mention the great guys they've got competing in classic physique at the show. All this stuff combined with that element of this being the guest posing show of the year, I think you could have something incredible happen at this Pittsburgh Pro that the industry is talking about for weeks to come. And the final story that I have for you guys today, the latest physique update from Michael Krizo at 2 weeks out from the Pittsburgh Pro, and now confirmed to be 3 weeks out from the 2025 New York Pro. And I made a short version of this where I said that I think that Michael Krizo might be the freakiest guy competing in the Pittsburgh Pro lineup. And you look at an update like this, you know that Michael Krizo is massive. You know he's a mass monster. He's a giant. And you see this type of detail, this type of vascularity. A guy this big in this type of shape is about as freaky as it possibly gets. And I said this before in a video that I think if you were judging this show not on stage, but exclusively on Instagram updates, which again is kind of a pie-in-the-sky hypothetical scenario, I feel like most people would just pick Krizo because the freak factor, that X factor, the impressive factor of the pictures that you see of Krizo are like nobody else even in this lineup. I mean, we've seen some really impressive updates from Nick and Derek, but when you look at Krizo's, they just hit different for some reason. And I'm not saying Krizo's going to win. I personally think that Derek is going to win this show. But Krizo just has that unique factor. And I think this goes back to, like, you talk about seeing good veto on stage. And people were saying this about the Martin Fitzwater guest posing that we saw a few days ago. And they were saying that Martin kind of lacks that wow factor, that X factor. When we saw good veto on stage at the Arnold Classic South America, people were kind of saying that same thing, is he kind of lacks that X factor, that wow factor. Krizo has that in the sense that he's a freak. He's really big, and he comes in crazy condition, and when you see vascularity in, like, the striations on a guy that size, this is what I think makes bodybuilding, open bodybuilding, the freak show, the circus. This is what people pay and buy tickets to see. And of course, this is kind of the paradox with bodybuilding, right? I mean, you see a lot of guys throughout the history of bodybuilding, especially in this new social media era, where these guys look insane on Instagram or whatever in their updates, and it just doesn't translate to the stage. And that could be the case with Michael Krizo, and in fact, it probably might be. But even so, I think if you're a bodybuilding fan, you can't help but look at updates like this from a guy the size of Krizo and be impressed by what you see. But that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.